Last week in Michigan politics, it was primary election night across Michigan on Tuesday. We have a full breakdown of the results in key races and what comes next in the lead up to November. Plus, tens of millions of dollars is up for grabs for after-school programs in our state. How it could help keep kids on the right track. I'm Josh Alburtus, and this is your 13 on your side rundown. We begin with your voice, your vote. Michiganders going to the polls across the state to decide in a number of key elections Tuesday as part of that primary election. Local races, a lot of those with a lot of local importance, races for Grand Rapids mayor to narrow down those candidates, as well as deciding on a lot of local millages, but some races with some national importance as well. Let's take a look at some of those, how they played out. In the 3rd Congressional District, key swing district in the battle for Congress, Republican attorney Paul Hudson projected to claim victory over financial advisor Michael Markey. Now, this is a map of the district. As you can see, parts of Kent, Ottawa, and Muskegon counties. Markey embodying what his campaign described as a disruptor persona. He touted his support for former President Donald Trump. In that case, you would want to run up the scores in a place like Ottawa County, especially ruby red, pretty populated county in the state, where the county's GOP executive committee even endorsed him there. Hudson has tried to be what his campaign has branded as a common sense Republican candidate for the current times, as they've described it. We expected that might carry more weight, more appeal to some of those more Nikki Haley voters in places like Kent County, in Grand Rapids, in those more urban areas that supported Haley just a little more earlier this year in the presidential primary. Pretty close though throughout the night, but Hudson running up the score more in Kent County than Markey was able to in Ottawa County, so that likely contributing to that projected win. In the Democratic primary in that district, incumbent first-term Congresswoman Hillary Scholten handily fending off a primary challenge in that race from Salim Al-Shatel. Both Scholten and Hudson, when we talked to them ahead of the election, signaled a preparedness to shift gears pretty quickly to the general election. Now in the 4th Congressional District to the south, not as swing as the 3rd, but incumbent Republican Congressman Bill Huizenga faced a primary challenge from Ottawa County Republican Party Chair Brendan Muir. While Muir had the endorsement of the Ottawa County Republican Party's executive committee, Huizenga projected to win this race handily as well. And of course, in the race for U.S. Senate, not much of a surprise here based on recent polling that showed large leads for the two now projected nominees, former Republican Congressman Mike Rogers and current Democratic Congresswoman Elissa Slotkin. To Ottawa County now, a major shift for the county's Board of Commissioners. Unofficial election results say the right-wing group Ottawa Impact will no longer have a majority of seats on the Ottawa County Board of Commissioners next year. 13 on your side's Julia Gorman talked to a longtime former commissioner not associated with Ottawa Impact who won his district's Republican nomination.
Ottawa County man Phil Kyer served District 9 on the Board of Commissioners for 22 years before he lost to Ottawa Impact member Roger Belknap in 2022.
That was pretty humbling, as a matter of fact.
Ottawa Impact members currently have a majority of board seats with 6 out of 11. The group identifies as pro-parental rights, pro-childhood innocence, pro-life, and pro-America. We've told you for months about the ongoing disagreement in the community surrounding choices made by board members over the last 2 years. In Tuesday's primary election against Belknap, however, Kyers came out on top.
It's kind of cool when it happened at 1:30 that we knew we won.
According to the unofficial results, only 4 Ottawa Impact members are headed to the general election in November, no longer a majority. It's a change Kyers is happy about.
The way they had their structure in government and the way they dealt with meetings, it was very, in some sense, I thought it was very rude that they brought people in that weren't even in our county, to make comments. It was more political comments than it was about what we're doing for the day on the agenda.
He says this shift took teamwork across party lines.
It was about working bipartisan to help everybody in the county receive the right services.
While Kyers still has to win his seat this fall, he's already thinking about his plans for the county.
We'll have a strategic planning and we'll prioritize things, and that's how we'll work through the county. And we'll work through every district. The majority will rule. I mean, that's the way boards work. but we'll take the opinion of everybody and we'll try to work that forward.
And Ottawa Impact posting this on Facebook after the election, reading in part, quote, "When winds blow and culture shifts, our core remains the same. We are committed to doing the right thing. We have a duty to protect kids, protect America, and protect foundational values and truth. The majority does not dictate morality. There are consequences to abandoning truth and abdicating freedom. Houses built on sand do not stand." The entire post is available to read on our website. And West Michigan voters helped narrow the field of candidates moving on to November while also deciding several ballot proposals. Major proposals like the lodging tax here in Kent County and the Ready by 5 millage both passed. Important local races, 2 candidates will face off this fall to become the next mayor of Grand Rapids. 13 on Your Side's Nathan Lee spoke to several organizers and candidates across the city to help break down what happens next.
Election night in West Michigan is over, and as the sun rises, the candidates and community leaders are looking towards what's next.
I just think there's so much excitement.
Thousands of Kent County residents voted yes to the lodging tax, a fundraising method for major projects across the city.
There's been so many milestones along the way, but this was a huge one.
What's next is attributing the funds for projects like the amphitheater, soccer stadium, and as Joshua Lunger says, many more to come.
I think people are aware of what this project can mean, but the fact that so many folks saw the regional impact and the benefit to everyone that lives in Kent County was really exciting.
And he's not alone.
There was support in every single one of our wards.
Outgoing Grand Rapids Mayor Rosalind Bliss says what Kent County residents voted on was the future of the city.
If you look at the impact that the Convention Center and the Van Andel Arena had on our city 20-some years ago, I think we're going to see that for the amphitheater and the soccer stadium as well.
Marking not only the next steps for tourism in Grand Rapids, but for the locals who built it.
It supports entrepreneurs and small businesses and adds another layer of vitality to our city.
Also on the ballot, Bliss's seat, now having 2 official candidates, David LeGrand and Sunita Lanier, fighting for the top spot. LeGrand saw the most support, winning nearly 60% of the vote, something he says was rewarding to see.
A lot of good work by my team and all of the people who helped, so I really mostly feel grateful.
But even though he won the primary, he says the job is far from finished.
The most important thing to do right now is get out, talk to voters, listen to them, and try to look for places we can build consensus on ways we can make Grand Rapids better.
The same goes for Lanier.
Sleeves have never been rolled down.
Who says she's inspired now more than ever to fight for the seat.
He has left the city before, after he was elected to serve as a commissioner. He left the schools after he was elected to serve as a school board member, and people are no longer interested in that.
Both will move on to the November ballot, but with just 3 months until then, both candidates agree it's back on the campaign trail.
Also in Kent County, voters approved a millage to fund early childhood programs and passed a 1-year millage extension for the Kent District Library. And we've been on the campaign trail all week as top candidates have been making stops in this key swing state. Coming up, we have reports on the 2 major parties' top tickets visiting Michigan, as well as next steps in the race for the state's open U.S. Senate seat. And we continue Your Voice, Your Vote now. Some recent polls may have suggested Vice President Kamala Harris gaining a larger lead in Michigan. But if there was any doubt whether Michigan will continue to play as big of a role in this election as we get closer to November, this week certainly seemed to challenge that, with visits from members of both top tickets on Wednesday. GOP vice presidential pick and Ohio Senator J.D. Vance spoke on the east side of the state earlier this week, with the Democratic Vice President Kamala Harris and her VP pick taking the stage in Detroit.
Michigan, this has been a big week.
Key battleground Michigan taking center stage yet again this election season, as the top tickets for both major parties made stops on the east side on Wednesday. In the morning, a visit from Ohio Senator and Republican Vice Presidential nominee J.D. Vance.
I'd ask you to support the candidate who has shown that he can deliver security in our streets. We just have to give him the opportunity to govern, and that's President Donald J. Trump.
Addressing community members outside a local police station in Shelby Township, fans focusing his visit on the topic of immigration.
We ought to give him a second term in office, and all of our communities will be safer and better and more prosperous because of it. So thank you all for what you do despite the policies of Kamala Harris. But I promise you, in just 6 months, the cavalry is coming. You're going to have a federal government who makes your life easier, not harder, but only if the American people support us and get us over the finish line this election.
And nearby in Detroit, Michigan also playing host to Vice President and presumptive Democratic presidential nominee Kamala Harris.
Do we believe in freedom? Do we believe in opportunity? Do we believe in the promise of America? And are we ready to fight for it? And when we fight, we win!
Alongside her, Harris bringing her newly chosen running mate after breaking the news Tuesday.
And yesterday, I announced my running mate in this campaign, Governor Tim Walz.
Minnesota Governor Tim Walz, a veteran and former teacher before rising to the rank of congressman and later governor of Minnesota, appealing to what he hoped to paint as shared Midwestern roots.
I was born in a small town of 400 people in Nebraska, and community was the way of life. My mom and dad taught me you show generosity to your neighbors and you work for a common good amongst them.
Walz's entrance into the race posing perhaps the biggest unknown for the Harris campaign that has managed to gain quick steam since President Joe Biden's exit from the race late last month. Multiple recent polls suggesting an overwhelming majority of voters don't know enough about the Minnesota governor to form an opinion. His blank slate persona bursting onto the national ticket is likely to make this a key time for both parties as they battle to mold his public image to voters. And following Tuesday's primaries that clinched them their party's nominations, Alyssa Slotkin and Mike Rogers are already on the campaign trail to claim outgoing U.S. Senator Debbie Stabenow's seat. Slotkin traveling Friday to Grand Rapids to campaign with Stabenow's support. In a race like this in a key swing state, reaching out to independent voters across Michigan will likely be key. We asked her how she plans to do it.
So I want a strong Republican healthy party. That's just not where we are with a lot of the elected. So, but I hold out hope. And on agriculture, on veterans issues, on broadband, whatever it is, I'm going to work across the aisle whenever humanly possible in order to get back to that positive discourse.
And we also got a chance to speak to Rogers about what his plans are to do the same.
But at the end of the day, when you sit down at your table, and your meal is a lot smaller because you're trying to make sure your kids have enough to eat, that's what's going to matter. And I have solutions for that problem. I have a solution for making sure we have jobs and opportunity here in the state of Michigan.
And also making news, Mike Rogers' home in Livingston County was swatted. Police responded to what turned out to be a hoax threat claiming a crime was underway. It was a fake and no one was hurt. The same thing happened to Rogers in 2013. And last night, authorities in Oakland County responded to a similar threat at Slotkin's home. It too was not real and she was not home. Both sides condemned the trend of political violence, saying it should not be tolerated. A West Michigan community is saying goodbye to one of their longtime leaders. Why the mayor pro tem of this lakeshore city is stepping down and how the community is sending him off. That's next. The city of Grand Haven celebrated its mayor pro tem this week during his final city council meeting in office. Ryan Cummins resigned so he can focus his efforts on his new job as city manager in Saugatuck. Cummins has served the city of Grand Haven for nearly a decade, and he's been on the city council for 4.5 years. On Monday, Mayor Bob Manetza said Cummins has demonstrated exceptional leadership, compassion, and work ethic in Grand Haven. Cummins said it's been an honor to serve.
There's no way that I'd be, the city manager in another community without all that I've learned from, the folks here in Grand Haven. So, met a lot of just fantastic people over the years, and that's really what it's about.
Grand Haven will be taking applications through August 16th to fill Cummins' seat. The city of Grand Rapids has released renderings for the riverfront improvement project near the planned amphitheater. Plans include more green space, a trail system, seating areas, and a public water access. The project is expected to cost between $13 and $17 million. City officials say the project is all about accessibility to the Grand River.
This giant piece of land on the Grand River is now going to be accessible to anyone in the city or any visitors from around the area to really get up close to the Grand River.
Construction is expected to start sometime next year and be completed in 2026. Millions of dollars in grant money is available for schools across the state to take advantage of. We'll tell you how it can improve before and after school programs in Michigan. Programs for kids before and after school may be eligible for grant money. Around $57 million is up for grabs, and 13 on your side's Micah Cho tells us how it could help keep kids on the right track.
Out-of-school time programs are a really special and unique space that provides an opportunity for young people to engage in learning in a lot of different ways.
Trevor Davies spent Monday afternoon helping leaders of out-of-school hours programs navigate a state funding opportunity offering up $57 million. That money available for programs that help enrich children from kindergarten through 12th grade.
Think about any time that young people are present, they're learning. And one of those spaces is outside of the school day. And so out of school time is a space to provide enrichment activities, anything from gardening and science, math, reading, theater, music, art.
That $57 million is part of $75 million was allocated to these programs in the state budget. This is Bridge Street Ministries' second year applying for the grant.
The 32N grant for Bridge Street Ministries funds an after-school program that we call Resurgence. It's a middle school focused youth development organization or youth development program that's really focused on developing future leaders in our communities.
Ryan Walkus is the ministry's executive director. He said the grant dollars help programs have a better reach to underserved communities.
We really believe that the kids that we work with are high potential youth, and we're really glad that there's people in the state that also see the potential of these youth, that they can really be a part of the future of a thriving city and thriving communities.
For 13 on your side, I'm Micah Cho.
And that's the rundown for your week in Michigan politics. Be sure to keep up with all the top political stories of the day, both on air and online at 13onyourside.com. We'll see you next week.